You're listening to the Urban Sports Scene and Bowie TV what's I supposed to say? Pre-game recap of the Baltimore Ravens. I'm Wole and I'm joined with well, I can say co-host because you're not like, are you guess you're my co-host now? I guess you're like my co-host.
I am
Basically, you're
because
basically like my co-host
here's
now.
Ray.
I know, right? My co-host, Bowie TV's Ravens beat reporter Carita Parks. What's going on, Carita?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I am good. You know what I'm saying? I'm good. I mean, it was exciting. It was exciting. Sunday night was exciting. Even though I was watching it from the DR, now I'm back in Maryland. Also, shout out to my Nigerians for Nigerian Independence Day. You know, I'm rocking the green for my
Oh,
people.
yes.
Shout out to my people. But yeah, it was exciting. We'll get into it. But yeah, like I mentioned about Sunday, on Sunday in B-more, the Baltimore Ravens stood on business with then undefeated Buffalo Bills.
Yep.
35-10. Before we talk about that, let's get into particulars. Hey, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, tune in and iHeartRadio. Just search the Urban Sports Scene. Make sure you subscribe to the Urban Sports Scene YouTube channel. Also, Ravens Recap is being streamed on Bowie TV YouTube channel as well. Subscribe there too. Don't forget to tweet us at Urban Sports Scene. Hit us up on IG at Urban Sports Scene and like our Urban Sports Scene Facebook page. Also, join our Urban Sports Scene Facebook group. Search Urban Sports Scene, sports bloggers, sports podcasters, and sports debates. All right, let's get right into it. On Sunday Night Football at M&T Bank Stadium, the Ravens dominated the Buffalo Bills. Like, put in work, major work, 35-10. On our pregame show, you talked about Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry possibly doing some work with both of them combining on that type of effort. Henry went for 199 yards on only 24 carries, and Jackson threw for 2 touchdowns and a running touchdown. Your thoughts on how they dominated the Buffalo Bills?
I mean, they did what needed to be done. We talked before the game, and I obviously thought it was going to be much closer.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pleasantly surprised at just how the Ravens seemed to have found themselves in that game. They were clicking on all sides of the ball, special teams, defense, offense, and they rattled Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
His playmakers weren't getting plays. There were also some injuries on the Bills side during that game too.
Yeah.
But all in all, I mean, they made the Bills look like they were not a 3-0 team. And the Ravens needed that, especially just, how they started with that 0-2 record. Then with the Cowboys game, getting the win,
Yes.
but it's still coming down to the wire the way it did. So they needed this kind of game.
Yes. What does it say about their dominance, though? Like you said, this team was undefeated, and they were playing not just good football; they were playing great football on the Buffalo Bills and the Ravens. They came into Baltimore and they got work. Like I mentioned, they got work. And what does it say about like the potential of this Ravens team?
Yeah, I think it shows you what everybody expected this version of the Ravens coming into the season. But I think now they're starting to find their footing and, especially offensively finding the formula that works for them. For me, especially for me, like on the outside looking in, I'm like, you got Derrick Henry, you just drop him in there and boom, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
we kind of saw that it took some time for them to figure out what that balance is and what will work between him and Lamar. And, I think that you see that this offense has a lot more, not just the offense, like this team has a lot more potential going forward. And this is kind of what we expected of them. So after that game, I'm seeing the pundits that are like, they're the best team in the NFL right now, which is so funny because it's such a stark difference from 2 weeks ago what they were saying. But all in all, I think the Ravens are back on track to being that team that could possibly go to the Super Bowl if they keep playing the way they played against the Bills.
I like that you mentioned that because you look at the Ravens 2-2 record, but arguably you can make that argument that they are the best team in the NFL right now. Yes, they lost a game, probably a bad loss to the Raiders. Obviously, losing to the Chiefs isn't
They
anything.
could easily be 4-0 right now.
Yeah, exactly. You lost to the Chiefs, and that's nothing to feel bad about. You lost to the Chiefs in Kansas City, regardless, and they had a chance to win that game.
Came down to a toe.
Exactly, came down to a toe. And I don't even know if it's pinky toe. It came down to a toe, and then you follow that up with the bad, like the Raiders wasn't the best performance, right? You're talking about them letting the Raiders, them losing that lead against the Raiders, but if you look at the last two victories, they look pretty dominant. You know what I mean? So yeah,
That's true. Yeah, even with the Cowboys, even though it came down to
but I feel like because they just
the Cowboys came back, I feel like that was a little bit on the defense.
yeah.
So, but they kind of tightened up this week too. So,
Yeah. So you think they learned from that? Like, did they? Are you were there? Did they
Mhm.
speak on that? Like, they learned from that situation with the Cowboys, and they made sure that when they're playing a tough Buffalo team, they made sure they put their foot on their necks.
I mean, they didn't. I just think that they have learned from the two games that they lost because their season could have easily went downhill because if they would have lost any games after that starting 0-2,
Mm-hmm.
we could very easily be having a different conversation. I just in talking with them, I think they knew what they were capable of, knew that
Yeah.
they had the talent, but they were frustrated just because it wasn't showing up on the field. But
Mm-hmm.
what I will say is I think Todd Monken may have learned to stay aggressive and to be more aggressive and to stay aggressive, and they do have a tremendous respect for Lamar. So I think that him being vocal and
Yeah.
saying that like we want to keep our foot on teams necks, I think they did take that to heart because I mean this is what Todd Monken wanted from Lamar. They said we're giving him the keys to the offense. I know he's not the primary play caller, but he made it very clear what he wanted and what he didn't think was happening.
Mm. So was there any? So I guess like after the game, and we're going to talk about some other elements, but after the game, what was the vibe from the players and coaches after that? Like, did they feel like they were happy with their performance, or was like we still have some things to work on? How did they feel about that type of victory?
They were happy with their performance,
Okay.
but in true Ravens fashion, they're never satisfied,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So like they were happy. I even asked Lamar because he has been saying we haven't been playing Ravens football. So
Mm-hmm.
I said to him, did this feel like more of a game that was characteristic of Ravens football? And he said, it's the start of it. And
I
then he
like
went
that.
on, he praised, like he was like, the run game got going. He said our receivers did what they needed to do. He was like, it was more of a game though, where they had to run the ball more. So he gave praise where praise was due, but
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't willing to say, yeah, this was Ravens football. Like, he's like, we still got things to work on. It was the start of it. He was happy. He was definitely happier.
Yeah.
And they were all definitely happier than last week's win because I think this time they felt like it was more of a dominant win and they didn't almost give the game away. But
Mm-hmm.
even Kyle Hamilton from a defensive side of the ball, he was like, yeah, it's great that we got that 35-10 win, but we didn't win a Super Bowl today. So he was like, that's our goal.
I love the humility. So speaking on, you speak about, the identity. I think that's a good point. It's like something you go with, like, what's Ravens football? Is Ravens football more seeing something like Derrick Henry getting 25, 24 touches, carries, excuse me, or is it something, or is it Lamar throwing for like 30 plus times? What is Ravens football in your opinion? Is this now the true identity? What we saw Sunday night, is that the identity of Ravens football?
Well, I don't want to say, I don't want to act like they're just finding their identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like they've always known what their identity is, and their
Okay.
identity as an organization has been physical, a team that runs the ball down your throat
Mm-hmm.
and plays good defense. And it just wasn't coming to fruition. I feel like their passing for the Ravens, like their passing game is more of a complementary of their,
Okay, so the run game. Got you.
but
Okay.
that's not, to me, they don't lean on their pass game to me. Like they lean on their run game more. But the
Mm-hmm.
pass game still has to work because you need that. So I do feel like what we saw the other night was more representative, in my opinion, of the Ravens' identity.
Mm-hmm.
They lean primarily on the run. They use the pass where they needed to use the pass. The only thing that was a little bit more ironic
Mm-hmm.
is there were no touchdowns by any receivers. They were
Okay. Running back. Yeah.
either rushing touchdowns, and the receiving touchdown was Justice Hill.
Yeah. And even
Oh,
Derrick
Pat.
Henry on that pass play. Yeah. was
Yeah.
all
Oh
running
yeah,
backs.
that's
Yeah,
right. That one
yeah,
too. And then it would have been a rushing touchdown, but the
yeah,
fumble in the end
yeah.
zone that Patrick Ricard fell on, and it
Exactly.
ended up being a touchdown anyway. So yeah.
To your point, yeah, you're right. The receivers weren't targeted, but I guess that's what it comes down to. It's like our is like that identity more of we're going to play through our backs. You know what I mean? And because obviously Justice Hill had an amazing game. They have 78 yards in a passing game.
Mhm.
So it's like, is that the identity? Are we going to feature the backs more? Will the receivers be like what? Like it looks like to your point. I agree with you. It's like they got this physical style and they're so versatile. Their backs are versatile now. You know what I mean? Like you can do so much with your backs.
So, something John Harbaugh said, he's like, if you've looked at this organization over the years, we've always been an organization that like runs the football and plays great defense. Then we have weapons.
Mm.
So to me, he outlined the identity, and that's exactly
Mhm.
kind of what we saw is they ran the football, they played good defense, and then they used their weapons kind of to, like I said, to complement the run game. I just think the nature of the game against the Bills,
Mhm.
it was very clear that they felt their run game was going to win more than the pass game. But I want to say it was Kyle Hamilton. It was someone on defense, I think, that
Mhm.
was basically saying that the Bills, like they like to basically use a lot of DBs, and so I think the expectation was like probably the receivers would be well covered.
Nah, like what is that? Sorry, they certainly had the right feeling.
Who is
So let's
that?
see, who's this? It's like they certainly had the right feeling.
The right feeling. What did
I'm trying to what that means. I'm trying to like the Ravens or I'm
the
trying to figure
team
out.
have the right feeling?
Yeah, I'm guessing you're saying the Ravens had the right feeling. Well, I mean, explain, bro.
Clarify that for
Yeah,
us.
yeah, explain, bro. Like when my man 912 said, yes, they have found their identity. I agree. I think they have. I said, yeah, the Ravens. Yeah, the Ravens had the right feeling.
Yeah, yeah,
So they
exactly.
definitely,
Agreed.
definitely,
Yep,
definitely appreciate you, homie.
definitely.
He said, it's only up from here on both sides. I agree. Speaking on the other side of football, well, actually, let me talk about Derrick Henry because I knew Derrick Henry would be good, but are you surprised that he was this good?
I'm not. I don't know why
Right.
people thought that.
I knew he'd be good, but I just felt like because when you're going from a different team, like when everything's
Oh
focused on you
yeah.
with the
Hmm.
Titans, like everything's focused on Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Now you're going over here when Lamar is here, and I no no like it's different. Like I didn't expect him to get like 35 carries here. I didn't. I really didn't.
Hmm.
But like
He had.
even in his limited carries, he's still like, and use him in your running back as you get a little older. Like you tend to slow down a little bit.
Mhm.
But he looks like the same Derrick Henry in
Yeah,
Tennessee.
he looks
So
like basically like if there's any question about that, that 87-yard touchdown should have answered that.
yeah.
So what I will say is I did think that I definitely thought he would be good.
Hmm.
I was personally a little surprised that it took a little
Yeah.
time to figure it out.
Okay.
But I mean, Derrick Henry's been good his entire career. I really
Facts.
didn't think that it would be any different here. I definitely thought that he would add a different dimension to that offense.
Hmm.
Um, but I kind of love what they're doing.
Yeah.
If they continue to do it, to do it how they did it the other night, I like where it's going.
I agree. Man said, no, Henry wasn't the problem on Titans. They were bad. Yeah, Titans suck. That's the truth. They just suck.
Yeah,
I
no,
agree with that. I was just surprised, like usually when you transition to another team and you're not getting, the same carries. Usually, Derrick Henry gets you like worn out
well, like on
pretty
the
quick.
other side of that, it's interesting that you say that, right? Because another observation, this is not his play necessarily,
Mm,
but even off the field, like he's really just meshed in very well with the locker
mm,
room. Like it's like he's become a leader in that locker room. And Derrick Henry, like early in his career, he was not a guy who liked to talk much, who liked to
mm,
be, who liked to talk to the media a lot, but he talks to the media quite a bit. We see him, I think it was last Friday, actually. He was over with the offensive line.
mm.
Um, So he's really become a leader on that team, which is to your point. When sometimes when you switch teams, you don't know how it's going to work out. But him and Lamar seem to be coming together and having a really good relationship. Like he's fitting right in.
Mhm. Lamar's an easy person. I feel like I don't know the dude, but I
Oh
feel like
yeah,
he's an easy
I
person
mean
to get
I
along with.
agree. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Also, I love that they're used. So I love that they used him a bit in the passing game too. It's been a nice surprise when they do that to not make him one dimensional. I agree. I do like that too.
That's definitely true because you didn't see. I mean, every now and then you saw that with the Titans, but they didn't typically use him as much in the passing game. Like he was strictly like with the Titans for the most part, strictly a runner.
Yeah. I think they. I mean, that's and usually and this doesn't hurt having like a threat as with Lamar's running game, like makes life a little easier. Teams are still going to worry about Lamar, so there's less eyes on Derrick Henry too,
But
which is
if
a
you
good thing.
notice, Lamar was more seemed to be more relaxed. Like Derrick Henry was taking over that game, and so like
Hmm.
when Lamar had to pass, like his passes were accurate. He didn't have a lot of like inaccurate throws.
Yeah.
They were easy. They just seemed to all be easy for him.
Hmm.
And then, like we talked about the other day, when he needed to run, he ran.
Yeah. And
But
also, yeah.
he seemed more relaxed
I mean, having
with how
Derrick
the
Henry makes
game
life
was unfolding.
man. Derrick Henry makes life easy once he's running like that.
That 87-yard touchdown,
Man,
the opening drive, like set the tone. I literally looked down at my laptop for 1 second.
he was gone.
I looked up and he was gone.
It's
I was
it's
like,
wild. It's
I
wild.
what just happened?
I know because I was watching the game. I was watching the game. And I think I was trying to figure out what I was gonna do for the night. I ain't gonna hold y'all. I was trying to figure it out. As soon as like as soon as like I look up, I was on my phone looking at whatever. And as soon as I look up, this dude is already gone. Like he's like out there
Yeah,
like a ball of lightning down the sideline. I'm like, he ain't going all the way. Is he like they're gonna catch him? Somebody's gonna walk him.
yeah.
Like, nah, no, and he pulled away. And that's what's like, dang, this man don't age. Like this man, like, is in phenomenal shape for real. Like to a point where I know somebody told me like no one ever walks Derrick Henry. Like when he gets that space, he's gone. And
He's
I'm
gone.
like, all right. Yeah,
And
that's
this
a little
case
younger
is
Derrick Henry,
long
but
gone because like
he
he
was
didn't even get
gone.
to use his stiff arm or nothing. Like nobody
Yes.
touched him.
Yes. That was impressive. Like his that run was impressive.
It was.
So it just like this team is looking like to your point earlier, this team to me, I know they're a 2-2 team,
Mhm.
but if you take away that, like you just look at the eye test, they are arguably the best team in the league. Like arguably, you can make that argument. Now, granted, there are teams who are playing phenomenal football, but
Yeah.
you can definitely make that argument. So we talked. I mean, we talked a lot about Justice Hill during the pregame on Sunday. He was spectacular. You mentioned earlier he was spectacular on Sunday night. Can you talk about his play, especially just his versatility for this offense?
Yeah. So I really like how him and like Derrick Henry are complementing each other, right?
Hmm.
Um, they use Justice Hill a lot in the pass game. Like they had him come out the backfield quite a bit. And I think, when I talked to Derrick Henry, he said they're both dynamic in their own way. And
Hmm.
that's true. Like Justice Hill, he's a different running back and he's having a phenomenal year so far. And so, I mean, he complemented that run game. If it wasn't Derrick Hill, I'm sorry, if it wasn't Derrick Hill.
Yeah, they combine. I feel you. They're
If
together.
it
They're
wasn't
together.
right, if it wasn't Derrick Henry, it was Justice Hill killing,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So, and then if it wasn't Justice Hill or Derrick Henry, it was Lamar.
Yes.
So like that is just coming together so well to me.
Hmm.
And Justice Hill, if anybody deserves this kind of success, is definitely Justice Hill.
Yeah, I think he was phenomenal. My man 912 said we use justice how the Pats use Kevin Falk. That's a good one. I like that. Comes in, does his job no matter the call. I agree. He does like just like and even White for the Patriots too. Like I agree. They're utilized the same way. He just makes plays. He's that small scat back that just makes plays.
And even in week one, that was
Mhm.
like Chris Jones. He got that block on Chris Jones.
Yeah.
So to your point, him doing his job, yeah, he comes in the game and he does whatever is asked of him, and he's been able to do it successfully.
That's what I like about the Ravens. What I like about the Ravens organizations, like they reward guys who work their ass off. You know what I
True.
mean? Like, and he's that guy. He works his butt off, and he still like getting a contract. Usually, some guys when get a contract, they kind of like they're a little more lax. He got his contract. He's still playing just as hard. So props out to Justice Hill because he deserved it. On a Sunday night, it's cool that in a prime time game, the world gets to see what kind of player he is. You know what I mean? You don't everybody doesn't get that opportunity to see what kind of player he is, because when you get that prime time game, it's Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night. Like now the whole world can get to see how good particular players are. And even if you're not that well-known player like a Derrick Henry being Justice Hill, like the whole world got to see how good, like, one, the Ravens backfield is, and two, how good Justice I'm about to do the same thing, Justice Hill is.
Right, like you said, they together.
They're together.
We are definitely becoming a dynamic duo.
Definitely. All right, so the Bills scored 31 and 47 prior to the Ravens game. The Ravens defense held the Bills to 10 points. How were they able to do that? And also, like, has their defense and that secondary, is it look like they're turning the corner? Are they getting a little better now?
Yeah, it looks like they are turning the corner. I think the secondary, like, they played tighter coverage, which definitely worked out in their favor. We said Marlon Humphrey. Marlon Humphrey, even though people want to, like, hate a little bit,
he's not hate on Marlon. Why?
Because he's had his mistakes.
Oh,
that's
okay.
all I mean.
Okay.
He's had his mistakes, and Marlon's also just very, like, out there. So he's kind of an easy for the fans to pick up on. But he had a clean game. So yeah, the secondary looked like they're turning the corner. I think also maybe Zach Orr is getting a little bit more comfortable in his role, and maybe starting to make the defense his own. But also the pass rush, we got to give it up.
Yeah. For
the pass rush, that was huge. They were on Josh Allen.
Yeah.
As a unit, but Kyle Van Noy, I want to say, gosh, they said it was his third game with multiple sacks.
Yeah, he's been killing.
Back-to-back game with multiple sacks.
Yeah.
So they pressured Josh Allen, which was one of my keys to victory.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
It was. You got to give you some flowers. I'm gonna give you flowers. Yes, it was.
and then when he did have time in the pocket, he didn't have receivers open.
True.
So that was key. I really liked what I saw from the defense too. Like, they tightened up all around.
I agree. Shout out to Odafe Owe. You know what I mean? It's Nigerian Independence Day, so shout out to him.
And Adebike.
Yeah, Adebike, yeah.
David Ojabo.
Yeah, Jabo had a big play earlier. We Nigerians are killing for the Ravens, man. We Nigerians are killing. It was Nigerian Independence Day, which is right around the corner. They had to show out. We're killing. We just killing.
When is it? Is it? I thought you said it was today.
Yeah, today. They had to show out. They had to show out Sunday because they couldn't party on Sunday. They got to like, they got to celebrate later on. They can't even do it really on Tuesday. They got to do it like on Saturday, or they can't even do it on Saturdays before the game. They're gonna have to find a way to kind of celebrate the day.
Today was their off day, so maybe.
They're definitely partying. They're probably all together. They're all probably together in a location. Shout out to them, man. Shout out to them. But I'm with you. Can we start to give Zach Orr his flowers then? Like, can the hate for him kind of subside a little bit, because he was getting some hate on the low?
I think everybody's gonna get some hate when fans are frustrated with what's going on with the team, but especially the defense. But one thing I would say about Zach Orr is he always took accountability. He definitely took accountability. Was like, I could do better. Like, we can all do better. Like, he never ever let his players hang out there to dry. I will say that. And they seem to really like Zach Orr. He's a former player, so it's a different kind of bond. So I think they want to see him succeed. So I think we could start to give him his flowers. We definitely have to see, what his play calling continues to look like. But Coach Harbaugh said in his press conference on Monday that he was happy with the play calling all around, from Zach Orr to Todd Monken. And we got to also give Todd Monken his flowers too, because he gets some, he gets some slack too when things go wrong. But everybody did their job, from the play calling to the execution on the field. It was a nearly flawless game. They just got to clean up the penalties though, because towards the end of the game, the penalties started come flying, and I was like, oh Lord. But it didn't hurt too bad, thankfully. But they just got to clean that up.
I know I talked about Kyle Hamilton having to make some plays, but that boy was out. He was everywhere.
Oh, yes,
you talk about his play. That boy was special.
Kyle Hamilton, I know.
Yeah. Like, you talk about his performances. He was doing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and that's Kyle Hamilton is all over the field. What amazes me about Kyle Hamilton is like he's not the biggest of guys to me,
Hmm.
but when you see him tackle, like, I mean, he's a dog on the field.
Yeah, he's a
He's
dog.
just a dog on the field. That's all I can really say. And he showed up. I think he's starting to feel more like himself. I know
Hmm.
he was battling a little minor injuries coming into
Hmm.
the season, but I think it was affecting his play. Now you see him being the Kyle Hamilton we know he can be. And even for him, there's so much more season left for him to continue to get better.
Yeah, I agree. But he definitely he stood out
Oh
on
yeah,
Sunday night.
he's been
Like
on the
especially like you.
big business.
Yes, yes, big business. And speak like just what you said. Like for a smaller dude, I mean he's a safety, but
Mhm.
he's always on the other side of the field making tackles. Like you think he like a 250 linebacker the way he goes out there and make plays. So
Goes after the quarterback when it's
yeah,
caught when he's asked to. I mean, just everything.
no, like you said, he big business.
He's a Swiss Army knife.
No, he definitely. All right, so I'm gonna ask this question because I'm a fan of this dude, and we talked about him earlier, like about being Lamar Jackson's dude and
Oh,
Mark Andrews.
mhm.
Um, he had zero catches. He had one target but zero catches. Is it time to like raise the eye of concern because this guy is a perennial Pro Bowl tight end, and now it's like he's not even a factor. And I refuse to think that he's falling off because I think he's still a talented dude. So, like,
Mhm.
what's the issue?
I mean, that's a good question, honestly. I did, I said in our pregame that I thought he was
Me too.
definitely going to have
I
a
agreed
much
with you.
bigger game. But
Yeah,
right, he hasn't had many targets, number one.
yeah,
And then number two, when he has, he's dropped them,
yeah. I know he dropped that one.
which is
Yeah,
also uncharacteristic of Mark Andrews. So, I mean, it's time to maybe start raising the eyebrows. I'm not going to pan it too much yet because I mean they haven't really had any games where passing has been the biggest factor so far.
hmm,
Um, but I know I definitely saw Lamar try to get him going early in the game against the Bills, and then that's the drop he had. But that was mostly like a game where they leaned on the run. But I
hmm,
refuse to believe that Mark Andrews isn't going to get going.
yeah,
It's a slow start for him, and that's very unusual.
hmm,
But I just think that at some point it's going to click. And I think the passing game as a whole is still kind of coming together because, like I
yeah.
said, we've seen them lean more on the run in a lot of these games. So
Yeah, I'm thinking like I feel like they're trying to obviously they got a new toy in Derrick Henry, so you're trying to get start
mhm,
with that a little bit, and then like him, I think he reason, and so it's going to limit his touches a little bit because you want to feature Derrick Henry as well. But then you got obviously you got Likely, and Likely's been productive too, so
yeah.
it's hard, man.
We
But
have a lot of guys to try to distribute the ball to. And
yeah,
if you think about it, in these previous years, I would say starting last year is when the Ravens had more offensive weapons,
that's a very good point.
right?
Yeah,
And then this year they have a lot of weapons. I mean, they still have Zay Flowers. They have Rashad Bateman. They have Nelson Aguilar, and all three of those guys are on the field at some point during a game. Then,
hmm,
from a tight end perspective, Isaiah Likely has just really thrived
hmm,
and he's starting to grow. He was always there, but he wasn't playing like he's playing now.
yeah,
And even towards the end of last year, sometimes you see Charlie Kohler in the mix. So I really think that some of this has to do with the fact that they have a lot of guys that they're trying to get the ball to. And in the past, Mark Andrews was one of the only guys.
yeah. He was the guy. He was
Mhm.
the guy. Even with Odell back, yeah, he was the guy. Like he was
He was
definitely the
the guy.
guy. Yeah, I agree. I like that thought process because I think that is correct. Because at the end of the day, he was like, and I like Hollywood Brown. I like Hollywood Brown a lot too.
Mhm.
But he was like the guy though. Like it was obvious. Like they didn't have a lot of weapons surrounding him.
No.
But
And
I
that's
do think that this team needs to get where they want to go. I do think he needs to be a factor though. But I
oh
mean,
for
as
sure.
much and I like Likely. I watched Likely in the preseason last year. I was highly impressed with Likely.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, this kid has a lot of talent. Like he can be a top end tight end in this league. But I just think that Andrews is one of those dudes that is like he is the consistent tight end. He's a guy you can rely on thoroughly. Like Likely is good, but flashy good. Andrews is that guy that's going to be consistent. Getting open, block, does everything.
He's
And
like the Travis Kelsey
yeah,
for
seriously.
he's like Travis Kelsey for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, no, real talk. Real talk. That's
No,
what
I'm
he is.
serious. I'm being
Yeah.
serious. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely. So I would definitely like to, like him to get utilized a little bit more. But I understand, like, you're winning right now. You're on a 2-game winning streak. Why are you worried about? You shouldn't. The last thing is about trying to get people involved.
In
Like,
my opinion, as long as they keep winning,
yeah,
and then start and like continue to learn what works for them, and have it figured out by the time the playoffs come,
yeah,
I'm good. Like baby Mark Andrews is gonna be that guy down the stretch.
Some folks think he may get traded though. Some folks think he may get traded by then.
I don't think that either. I mean,
I know.
Anything can happen. It's the
Yeah.
NFL. It's a business, but I would be so surprised if they did. I think Lamar would be mad, honestly, and I don't think they want to make Lamar mad.
I think he would be.
I think there's a lot that can make Lamar mad, but I think that would.
No, I think Lamar would be big mad if he got traded. To be real
big
with
mad.
you.
I don't think they want to do that right now.
I didn't. Before we close out, I should mention this unit. The offensive line, they were great again. Like,
yes.
Like, yeah, can we just talk about that unit and how they performed? Because because Derrick Henry did a lot of work, but that offensive line gave him a lot of holes to kind of do the work.
They did. I mean, like you said, another great job. Because my concern was, I know Andrew Voorhees, he was injured, so he wasn't going to be playing. And then I believe I said Linderbaum, he had an injury, but no, I mean, they still played well, even despite like the absence of Andrew Voorhees. They moved Patrick McCarry into that role, and then Roger Rosengarten got his first NFL start. So, I mean, I think that they're not going to say this, but I think the criticism, I think they took that to heart and was like, we are good.
Yeah.
And we've seen them just Derrick Henry in his locker room speech. You'll see it on Ravens social media. He even was like, saying, he was like, in offensive line, y'all did great. And y'all had everything said about y'all. It's true. They had everything said about them, but they have really been doing their thing for Derrick Henry. And I say for Derrick, I mean, they want to protect the quarterback.
Yeah.
But I say for Derrick Henry because I think that he's really taken some intentional time and effort to talk to the offensive line and like get their confidence built up and just kind of, form that relationship with them. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad because I think that this unit should get their flowers in the last 2 weeks. I mean, 199 yards means they did their job.
Hey, we gotta keep shouting him out because he got the worst of it all.
Exactly. He did. I remember we're doing our first like pregame, and somebody came out and talked about him. So yeah, you're right. Like, but they all
in all fairness, and people got to really think about this. That not just that team, but that offensive line lost their O-line coach, and I don't care what anybody says. That throws you.
It does.
Because that was sudden, and you got to keep. Yes, like they had the opportunity to grieve, but you still have to keep working. So you don't have the proper opportunity to grieve. And then they have a new coach that they have to get used to. So I think people need to kind of give them some grace when it comes to that and really take the time to think about like losing your online coach. That's not easy in the middle of the season or before the season starts. Like one day he's there, one day he's not. Like that's just, and these guys are young. These are not, no, it's not easy for anyone, but these are guys who just came out of college in some cases. Like they're not even mid-20s. That's a lot to deal with. So I think that you have to factor that in a little bit.
No, I agree. I think grieving through any process is hard to get to be.
And then you gotta get used to someone else's philosophy.
That too. Yeah, definitely. It does play a mental game with you. So I'm with you. Like it takes time to kind of get your swag back. and get back and get, like you said, get used to another individual's philosophy.
Yeah.
Because you were taught a certain way, now you got to kind of transition to another way. So, but now it seems like they're kind of clicking though. So it seems like
You do. So whatever they're doing right now, Ronnie Stanley said it's all started in practice, and they're locked in. And like I think I mentioned this before, but a couple weeks ago I saw them after practice still out there on the field, so they're taking it seriously.
all right, man. Engraven Vid said, "Wow, that's a really good point. Korea, you can love. I didn't think about that when it came to their own line and them losing Joe D. Great point.
Yeah.
See, like, look, man, look at you educating folks.
I try.
There you go. There you go. Hey, Korea, about the time to close this show out. Before we close it out, how can folks catch you on social media? Also, how can they catch the content you put out there? This is the wonderful content you put out there for Bowie.
Yes, thank you. Well, you can catch me on all social media platforms at Carita C. Parks. My Ravens coverage is on Bowie TV Sports on all platforms. So that's at Bowie TV Sports. Also, check out the YouTube. That's primarily where like my reports go. Also, you can catch all of my other sports coverage. I do NBA, WNBA, and anything else that I want to talk about on Double Take Sports. That's at DBL Take Sports. So make sure you follow us on all social media platforms, as well as YouTube. Wole.
That's good.
Make sure I didn't forget that last
Yeah,
week.
no, don't forget. Yeah, there you go. You're on YouTube. There you go. There
Yes,
you go.
I believe that's everything.
There you go. That's
A
what
lot
I'm
of
saying.
ways to find me. A lot of ways to find me.
I mean, you ain't really plugging your Double Take Sports Instagram, but I ain't saying nothing
I
about
said on
that.
all social media
Oh,
platforms.
folks only think about Instagram. Nobody think about that. That
Okay,
one.
so at DBL Take Sports on Instagram, X, Facebook.
I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. All right, y'all, man. I already said our little spill. I ain't saying it again. Y'all called me earlier. I said I gotta get out this. I gotta like.
And thanks for the Ravens fans who tapped in. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, y'all are the real VPs, man. Thanks for tapping in, man. I do. Y'all are the real VPs. I gotta go celebrate Nigerian Independence Day. So I appreciate y'all for for everybody for tuning in, man. I feel like Carita also had her time to be on here. Everybody, because y'all make. I always say this, folks, on the comments. Y'all make the show real dope when y'all ask questions. So I appreciate X question comments and whatnot. Y'all make things pretty exciting and fun. So I appreciate all the comments that came through. Anyway, man, appreciate y'all for tuning in. You've been listening to the Urban Sports Scene for Aegis Yadig. Deuces. We are out. Swag.